This story begins with an aerial view of a very beautiful mansion. We can see a swimming pool, a park, and everything someone could need to be happy and to stop working for the rest of their life. However, the purpose of this place is something else, and with a dark view of a corpse floating in the pool, we realize this will not be a vacation story. But before we ruin the surprise, let us jump to the past, where we meet two of our main characters. Aboard a classic car we would all love to own, and driving through sunny California, they arrive at the mansion and find it completely empty. Cliff tells his girlfriend Ginger that they will have an incredible weekend, but she only wants to go inside to start studying. It turns out she has a final exam on Monday, and her future depends on it. After this, the scene changes and shows us a luxury car that belongs to Carl, who is the chief financial officer of Immaculate Pond Technologies. Right as he arrives at the company, he is greeted by Devin, the chief executive officer, who tells him he cannot find Cliff anywhere. Carl suggests they not wait for him, and Billy agrees with him, since she is the human resources director and does not want to keep receiving complaints from the other employees. If Cliff did not have the responsibility of arriving on time, it is his loss. On the bus, we meet the rest of the main characters: Omar, the chief technology officer, and Deborah, the chief revenue officer. So now we know that every person who will attend the mansion holds a very important position in the company. The last one introduced is Aubrey, who is the chief operations officer and the only one who is not excited at all about this trip, since they do it every year and it always turns out to be a complete disappointment. After sitting in the car for a while, Ginger realizes that this will not be a romantic getaway, but that Cliff has lied to her and brought her to a corporate retreat, so Ginger will have to follow all the rules. She will receive a pair of luxury slippers and will give up her phone, since phones are not allowed during the retreat. Everyone follows the phone rule, except Carl, who tells the girls that he has a sick child at home and that nothing in the world will make him part with his phone. So they either let him in or he goes back to the van, and the girls have no other choice but to let him do what he wants. The group is given a few minutes to get changed, but since Deborah does not know the mansion, she ends up walking into a storage room where she was not supposed to go, and there she comes across two corpses hanging from some chains. But before she can escape, someone attacks her from behind. The man places a cable around her neck and applies pressure until the blood bursts and her body begins to lose the strength to fight. At the same time that happens, Cliff has managed to convince Ginger to have some action on the terrace. But when he takes off his jacket, she realizes he is carrying a weapon. That is something that makes her quite nervous, but Cliff leaves it under the seat and they go back to what they had planned. Unfortunately, one of the coordinators appears and tells them that the activity is about to begin. But since she had not planned on Ginger's arrival, they will have to make some adjustments and hope she can join the activities, even though she says it in a somewhat dark tone that will surely give her something to think about later. A few minutes later, everyone goes down to the changing rooms to change and put on the official shirt. At that moment, we can see Billy go into the men's changing room to steal Carl's phone, since he is not supposed to have it. All of this is orchestrated by Amber, the retreat coordinator, who managed to trick her into saying that Carl could not experience the full experience with his phone, and since Billy cares a lot about her colleagues, she wants them to have the best. Once she has all the phones, Amber puts them in a safe box that only she knows the code to. On the other hand, the guys have joined Lola, their relaxation expert, for an hour of meditation where they will get to know themselves. The guys ask about Deborah, but Amber tells them she was not feeling well, so she lay down. Maybe it is the mountain heat, and she will join them later. Once the activity begins, Lola tells them about the 7 gates of the body, and they will unlock each one of them on this trip, thus achieving a new rebirth and becoming someone very different from who they are. Even though Carl thinks all of this is a bunch of nonsense taken from Naruto, Lola asks him to be a little more receptive and join the experience. But after spending an hour sitting on the burning floor and listening to how they should feel the sun inside their bodies, Amber takes them to the spa. Here, they will experience the second gate, called the Gate of Fire, which is located just below their novels and represents the heat of the body, vitality, and passion, something Cliff knows a lot about since he cannot keep his hands off Ginger. The girls leave and ask them to enjoy it. They will return in a couple of minutes, but they give them no instructions at all, so they can only sit and start to sweat while the heat in the room begins to rise. Unfortunately, after a while, the heat becomes almost unbearable, to the point where they begin to lose their strength and have no idea if this really is supposed to happen. The first one to get tired of all this nonsense is Omar, but when he tries to leave, he realizes the door has been closed. Billy tries to calm them down and tell them this is a challenge. It is not supposed to be easy. They just have to be patient, and surely the girls will return in a few minutes. But the rest of them get tired of his positivity. Ginger is about to faint, and none of this will help them become better people. When Ginger falls to the ground, the girls open the door and keep apologizing again and again, telling them this should not have happened, and promising them the next experience will be much better. And they bring them something to drink, and the guys are so tired and have lost so much liquid that they do not even ask what they are drinking. After this, Amber tells them they promise to make it up to them, and they will not regret continuing with the experience. So the guys decide to do this for the company and stay in the room while they prepare the next phase of the retreat. But after a few minutes, they do not come back, and when the guys begin to worry, a huge screen turns on and the girls are on the other side. Lola tells them that the drink they have just taken contains a bacteria that will cause botulism in their bodies, starting with weakness and fatigue. After that, they will experience blurred vision and difficulty speaking. The third phase of the disease includes diarrhea, vomiting, and eventually death, but they should not worry, since they have everything they need to survive. As expected, the men's reaction is to get out of there right away, and although Cliff throws a chair against the glass, it bounces back, letting them know they are in a fully armored room and there is no way to escape. The guys offer them money to let them escape, but they tell them that money is not the way to reach transcendence, and it is obvious they are either completely crazy or they have planned all of this in great detail. The first clue about their transcendental journey is in the kitchen drawer. The guys offer her to them, wish them luck, and the screen turns off. In the kitchen drawers, they find a box, and inside there is a huge syringe, but they have no idea what to use it for, and their bodies are already beginning to feel a little stiff, especially in the stomach. Aubrey has a master's degree in chemistry, and in the kitchen, there are certain specific ingredients, revealing a kind of test. On top of that, the plants that look decorative are actually medicinal, and she has begun to figure out what all this is about. She needs to create an antidote to stop the effects of the botulism, and she has to do it quickly. Ginger was the one who drank the least of the bacteria, since she was passed out, and Cliff could not give her much, so she has the strength to help her, starting by boiling the vodka and adding the medicinal plants. By that point, the pain in the guys' bodies is almost unbearable, and Carl asks Billy how on earth she organized this trip, and she tells them it was an email offer she got from Amber, and it seemed too impressive to say no. The email arrived on the same day they announced the retreat, and even though that is a huge coincidence, she never thought something like this would happen. But Omar reminds her that they are a company that earns billions of dollars a year, and there are many who would like to see them dead, especially the competition, so she should have been much more thorough in her investigation, and now they are all about to die because of her. Ginger goes over to Cliff to see how he feels, and he reveals to her that he has a set of keys that could be the way to escape the house. But for now, he does not know who to trust, only her, and he asks her to try to find out if there is a traitor. And everything points to the fact that his suspicions are real, since if someone sent an email to Billy the same day, that means they had access to their servers. And the idea that there is a traitor is quite valid. The first one to throw up is Omar, and a few seconds later, we can see that Aubrey has just finished the formula, but she needs a catalyst, something made of gold, and Carl gives her his wedding ring. How lucky that she did not take it off after the divorce. When the reaction she was expecting happens, it is time to use the syringe and inject them all with 10 milliliters of the antidote. But Omar was the one who drank the most of the bacteria, and his body is about to fail. Even after Billy injected him with the antidote, his body begins to fail, and it seems his heart stops. After they pass the first test, the screen turns on again, but this time it is not the girls, but Arthur, the former founder and chief executive who was fired, according to him, in an unfair way, and now we have a reason for all of this to be happening. It is a revenge, a very well-planned scheme. The girls took care of taking them through the first 3 gates, and the next 4 are the most fun of all, which means that in order to get out of here, they have to complete the journey, and even if that means they may not leave physically, they will do it spiritually. Arthur reveals that the only reason Billy accepted this retreat for them is because he sent her $50,000, and she thought it was a commission, so the next retreats would also be booked with the same company. But it turns out she is so naive that she sentenced all her colleagues to death for a tiny amount of money she earns in less than a month. The next part of the challenge is that they have to choose a person to travel to the spiritual world, so he will give them a couple of minutes to make their decision. And even though the guys do not seem to understand this, Ginger translates it for them, and basically, they have to choose someone to kill. 2 seconds later, Amber and Lola appear with automatic weapons and a glass jar, where they will have to put the heart of the person they have chosen, and the time is running out for them to decide who it will be. But Cliff gets tired of all this nonsense, tells them to go to hell with their hippie theories, and tries to grab the gun from Lola, but she pulls the trigger and blows his head off. So now they will not have to decide whose heart goes in the jar, but it must be intact, and they leave them a pair of scissors so they can do the job as it should be done. Unfortunately, Amber changes her mind at the last second and tells them that Cliff's heart will not work since it was not given by her own sacrifice. So Lola ends up dragging the body and taking it out of the room so they can choose someone else. Arthur is quite angry about what they did. He was supposed to shoot them in the legs if things got tough, but Lola got nervous. And now one of the people who should be in the last ritual has died. And this could go very wrong. It is at this moment that we see the level of brainwashing that Arthur has done to these girls, and they are willing to do whatever it takes to make him happy. Back in the room, the guys can't believe what is happening. Not only does Billy not stop blaming herself for all of this, but Omar is on the brink of death. And by the way things are going, they are the only candidates for what is about to happen. And once the team agrees, Omar will be the one to give his heart. After all, they do not know if he will survive the bacteria, and the person responsible for taking his life will be Billy, since they are all here because of her. She is very nervous, so everyone decides to count to 3, and then they will use the knife to cut his throat. Unfortunately for their plan, just before she does it, Omar wakes up and cannot believe his colleagues were about to kill him. At that exact moment, Billy is very upset and knows perfectly well that if Omar is not the one who dies, then it will be her. So she uses the knife and slashes his jugular, taking him by surprise, and a large amount of blood comes out of his body. After Omar finally dies, Carl takes the knife and begins to make an incision on his chest in order to remove his heart as intact as possible. Using the scissors, he cuts the ribs and then keeps going until he finally reaches what he is looking for. Carl uses the knife to separate the arteries, and even though what we are seeing is quite strong and we cannot show it, a few seconds later, he manages to get Omar's heart in his hands and puts it in the jar. At that moment, the screen turns on and Arthur congratulates them with applause, and then the girls come back with the guns and make them line up. And this is where the 5th test begins, called the laughter. Since during the time he was away from the company, he was very depressed. But truly, laughter is the best medicine, and this door is located in the throat. But to put it in simple words, each of them will have one chance to laugh as loud as they can, and it has to be a sincere laugh, because if they are faking it for any reason, the punishment is to separate their head from their body. And for that, they have brought a very sharp sword, which they will use in case any of them fails the test. And after doing a silly trick with his finger, Arthur chooses Aubrey to be the first to have her chance. And with some dramatic lighting, it is time for her to laugh. But even though she does her best, the tears and the fear take over her body. So Arthur gives her a second chance. And after that, she finally manages to do it and receives 2 positive votes, one from Lola and one from Amber. So she has passed the 5th test and can take a step to the right while the rest have their chance. The next one to be chosen is Carl, who before he can laugh tells the girls what kind of man Arthur was. He was hospitalized in a psychiatric hospital at the age of 20 because he was unstable. He ruined not only his life but also his family's. On top of that, he was about to take the company and its millions of employees to bankruptcy, and that is why all those present voted to kick him out. And now they have a success they could not have achieved with him by their side. He is unstable, someone who cannot be trusted. And so Carl begins to laugh, not out of lies, but at Arthur himself, and it is quite a sincere laugh, so he gets the positive votes and is saved, even though Arthur is not very happy about it. When it is Ginger's turn, she applies the same strategy, since she has studied psychology for several years and knows how a sick man like him behaves, and she manages to get 2 positive votes, but Amber's is a no, and she almost ends up losing her mind, so she will have to be much better for the next challenge. The next one is Devin, the man who took Arthur's job, and he is not willing to keep playing this game, so the girls give him some motivation with a bullet in his leg. This makes Devin get into the moment and laugh in a way that is sincere enough to get the votes, until we reach the end of the list with Billy, who put all of them there, and who was Arthur's friend for many years, but in the end, she betrayed him like everyone else. Billy is unable to laugh in a sincere way, especially because of the tears and the fear that have taken over her whole body. So in the next scene, we can see Amber holding the sword and cutting off her head with a quick movement. With the 4 survivors that are left, Ginger gets tired of her search for the traitor and decides to confess that there are keys to the house in Cliff's pockets, but his body is on the other side of the door. Besides, he brought a weapon that they left on the rooftop, so that is a chance to kill these witches and get out of there as soon as possible. The plan is simple. They are going to destroy the cameras so the girls cannot know where they are when they come in with the guns, and they will wait for the right moment to attack them from behind. But so that it does not look so obvious, they will start by destroying all the vases, so they think it is an act of rage, and then they will point at the cameras at random. Once the camera is pulled from the wall, they take the sharpest object they have close by and position themselves right next to the door, waiting for the girls to open it so they can attack them. However, Amber and Lola are not there. In fact, they are at the front door, taking care of a couple of people who got lost and need help getting to the house they rented. Amber tries to give them directions quickly so they leave, but the guys notice and beg her to leave, so she has to act and cuts their throats with a knife, while Lola kills her husband. After putting the bodies in the back of the car, the girls return to the control room and realize that one of the cameras has been destroyed, so they grab the guns to check. But Amber listens through the wall and realizes they are about to enter an ambush, so she uses the screen to tell them it was a good attempt. But there are more cameras than they know, and there is no way to escape this place. For the 6th test, they will have to find the Gate of Truth, but at that moment, Devon tells him that if what he wants is the company, he will sign it over right away and give him back what they took. But Arthur tells him he does not want those ties. When they fired him, they set him free, and he discovered something much more transcendental, and he wants that for them too. But Ginger uses her knowledge of psychology to get into his mind once more and makes him admit that he is angry and furious for what they did to him. He is not doing this just to open their eyes and to prove to her that she is wrong. Arthur agrees to join them in the 6th test, so now the villain will be in the mansion, and this is a chance they can't miss. Amber receives a call from Arthur, who tells her to prepare everything for his arrival, but she does not want him to get hurt. However, he tells her that his transcendental journey is not complete yet, and he needs to do this. At that moment, we can realize that Arthur was never far from the mansion. He was only a couple of miles away, hidden in a camper, and he arrives very fast to tell them that the 6th test includes the opening of the 3rd eye, freeing themselves from the need for their 2 regular eyes and from the lies they present. Only then will they achieve true enlightenment. In simple words, each one will use a spoon to tear out an eye, and since he is willing to complete his path of enlightenment, he will be the first, and if for some reason he fails in his purpose, the girls should shoot him in the head. But Amber is very in love with him and asks him if he really wants to do it. At that moment, Arthur tells her that she must commit to his path, and she agrees to shoot him if he fails. Using the spoon, Arthur inserts it below the eye, and while he feels an agonizing pain, he thanks the gods for his path of enlightenment and for allowing him to open his 3rd eye. But what we see is something much scarier, especially when his eye is left hanging and he has to pull it out by force. After telling them how beautiful the promised land looks, full of women waiting for them, the madman Arthur chooses Carl to be the next one to tear his eye out. With 2 guns pointing directly at his head and a child waiting for him at home, Carl has no choice but to do what he is told. But when his eye hangs outside his face, he asks Arthur to be the one to tear it out. But the old man does not fall for his trap, and he has no choice but to do it himself. The next one is Devon, and as part of the test, his time is cut in half, so he no longer has 60 seconds. He has 30, and he has to hurry. By the time it is Amber's turn, she only has 20 seconds to achieve it, and she panics. The 20 seconds pass while she begs them not to do this to her. But in the end, Amber ends up being shot in the head, leaving only Ginger, who will have only 10 seconds to achieve it. And this time, Arthur wants to see her from up close, since she seems to be the bravest of the whole group. Surprisingly, Ginger not only tears out the eye in less than 5 seconds, but she begins to describe the Promised Land, the same one she supposedly saw a few minutes ago. She manages to make Arthur very impressed by her and move on to the 7th test, called the Crown, the last challenge that will give them the enlightenment. Amber brings a box, and inside there is a doll, similar to the ones they use for voodoo, but it looks like Arthur, and the employees used it to laugh at him for a long time, calling him the lunatic Arthur, something that made him feel betrayed blade, and it hurt a lot. So the last test includes needles, as they did with the doll, but these needles look like huge nails, and each of them has to insert 7 into their body, including 1 in the ear, which will go through the brain and bring them to the transcendence. It is clear that no one will survive this last test, and Carl is the first to advance to take 2 nails and put them on his thighs, up to the point where it is marked. At first, this is not difficult for him, but the last one has to go into his brain, and they have to think fast or they will all die. But there is nothing that can be done. Carl really believed he could survive this, but in the last seconds he collapses, and now it is Devon's turn to put 7 nails in his body, including his ears, a task he probably will not survive, but it will give him enlightenment. Devon refuses to keep playing this game. He prefers to die quickly rather than torture himself that way. But before he says anything, Arthur does not allow it, and Lola shoots him in the head. Being the last one and the next to reach enlightenment, Ginger asks Arthur to let her hold the doll for a few seconds and then confesses to him that she did it. It was a silly gift for Cliff, who was always talking about his boss, and she thought it would be a funny joke. But she wants to apologize, and she really wants to achieve enlightenment. So she starts to pretend she can hear the voice of the Eternals and tells them that for them to also hear her, they must go up to the rooftop because it is there, under the light of the stars, where they all will be able to reach enlightenment. Ginger takes the mad Arthur to the rooftop, and even though the girls keep pointing at her all the time, she manages to kneel right next to the piece of furniture where the gun that Cliff brought is, and her chance is to leave this place alive. After pretending a rather strange prayer, in which 1,000 virgin women please Arthur all the time, he gets distracted enough for her to grab the gun and use him as a hostage. But Arthur is completely crazy, and he pulls out a knife to stab Ginger in the stomach, so she has no choice but to shoot him, and he ends up falling from the rooftop. Amber, furious, unleashes a rain of bullets against the piece of furniture Ginger is using as a shield, but it will not hold forever, and she has no choice but to throw herself down, falling into the pool. There, she uses Arthur's body as a shield until the girl runs out of bullets, and she can get out of the pool to keep running away. Unfortunately, Amber and Lola have a huge arsenal, and it only takes them a few seconds to go down to the office to find new weapons and walk slowly through the house until they find her. Amber manages to locate Ginger in the garage, where Deborah was killed, and there she takes the keys of the car that were in Cliff's pocket. Using her boyfriend as a human shield, Ginger prevents her from being killed and waits for the right moment to shoot. But her aim is bad, and now she will have to face Amber in a fistfight. At the end of the fight, Ginger destroys Amber's skull with a weight until she also reaches the transcendence she believed in so much. Now only Lola is left to stop her, and Ginger has the perfect distraction. After putting one of the yellow shirts on Amber's corpse, she puts it on Arthur's vehicle, making her waste all her bullets and stay defenseless. Now Ginger only has to make one accurate shot, and she manages to kill Lola. With a wound in her abdomen, the girl who was not supposed to be there is the only one who manages to get out alive by turning on her dead boyfriend's car and driving away from that place. The movie ends with an aerial view of Ginger leaving the mansion, with a great story to tell the police, who will surely want to know every detail of what happened there.